What's going on, guys? This is Music Player 1979 coming from West Texas tonight. Back in June, when I saw that strange formation of cloud, it just seemed to resemble a ribbon with a clock hand. Throughout the 2.5-3 hour time of watching this strange formation, the long hand of the clock went from 5 to 9. I'd never seen anything like it. And I told myself that had to have been the strangest cloud that I'd ever seen. I was already in the knowing of something far beyond anything that we could ever imagine being possible. These were orbitals going around something primary. When I seen this, I noticed a solo object at the very end of watching this. It was about 7 o'clock or so. And as I watched this object dip down from the southeast over to the southwest, I could not believe my eyes on what I was seeing. I realized I had had a hard day. It's like any other person. I was ready to go and retire. But when I saw the face of Jesus Christ, I just couldn't believe it. I asked my wife to come and observe this down in the south with me. And I'd ask her, babe, do you see this cross, this beautiful gold cross in the sky with what resembled to be Jesus Christ on it? She said, yeah. I lost my best friend that night, soon after discovering the cross in the sky. And I miss her very much. She was half pit, half lab. Her name was Lulu. I kept seeing these stories throughout last year, and in each one of them, it resembled humanity. It resembled the form of us. One of the first visions that I had, and I'm going to tell you they're visions because you're awake. You're completely coherent when they happen. You're not sleeping. You're fully aware of what's going on around you. And to me, I take that as a vision. I was out back in my backyard last year. Beautiful day, 80 degrees or so. I heard this jet sound, and it became very, very loud, almost a fiery, crispy sound. And it was so loud, it scared me. It made me look up. And as I looked up, I could see an object straight above me heading out towards the due west side. And as it traveled, it split the clouds. And it was moving very fast. My mom, she was working across the lake that day. And I needed to call her to comfort myself because of what I had heard and seen. It devastated me so much, after all of what I had been going through. And I had asked my mom if she had heard it. She said no, and there was no way that she couldn't have heard it, because it was only 1.5 miles away. There's no way. I just couldn't believe it. So I talked to a couple of good friends of mine that brought me back into where I needed to be, in my life. I needed to have some kind of structural balance pertaining to my everyday workings in my life. But while talking to the two good friends of mine on the phone, they prayed with me, and I just, I really needed that. And I definitely still today appreciate that because I was so just traumatized on what I had seen and heard. A couple months passed, and I was still seeing the system, of course. Beginning of June, 2013, it just, from then on, God just kept touching me and showing me what he wanted me to share with the world. I don't have any credentials. I'm a ranch hand, a family man, a husband, a retired military veteran. I don't bring much to the table, but I have fought for my country. So that gives me a right to speak my mind. I need to tell the world what's taking place. Even though it may sound silly to say it even to me. But it's vital. It's very vital. We've been feeling this shift, this change that's been taking place around the world for a good 40, 50 years. There are many, many things, devastative, that have happened in this time frame that sets precedents for what's going to take place. And this is just the beginning, guys. I always feel that I repeat myself over and over again in my videos, but I think it's important because if I catch that new person, that one that is just curious, just remotely, that I might be able to grab your attention. And maybe you might see something. As time progresses here, it's going to be more easier to see these. And I am getting more responses online by the day. In a week's time, the viewings have doubled, and that's great. It only tells me that people are finally coming to the grip, the reality of what's taking place. I've talked about manipulation throughout the past videos, but I think it's important that we realize what we are manipulating. And we can't blame a certain person. We have to blame ourselves for getting ourselves in this mess. Nobody else did this. We did this to ourselves. We wake up every day and we have chemicals that we are even unsure about that are being sprayed across our skies. And everybody's okay with that. Everybody continues without a worry, a care, even a remote possibility that there could be harmful chemicals within this. And I feel so silly and dumbed because it took me so long to realize what these were used for. The initial response for chemming our skies is bioengineering, the manipulation of our weather. I believe it's to reflect the radiation coming from this system. The lines, the two lines, the individual lines that come out of the back of the crafts, they used to be called contrails back in the early 90s. Now they're chemtrails. And people always have that first initial response to the system. They say it's a chemtrail, and they're 100% sure of it. But nothing else after that. It's just a chemtrail. I believe Fukushima was used for this purpose. Okay, they say it's 3 times worse than Chernobyl ever was. Pretty hideous. It took 3 days just to clear the globe. Pretty important here, folks. And this is still widespread now. They're having mutations of different plants and animals. I mean, it's sad. It's sad. Reality. It's that daily thinking, start to finish, path that we choose every day. what makes us happy, what makes us content, what drives that influence to keep us heading forward to the next phase, or whatever we're going to continue with. But it's what we do, it's the programming nature. It's that influential clause that's created. It's because minds came together many years ago and knew that this system was inbound. So they had to create many avenues. They had to create many things to take us away from the influence of where we came from. You know, Mother Earth, the dirt. Sure, we've got astronomers, but everybody used to be astronomers. When light came around, street lights and TVs and everything else, it drowned out everything that was true to us. Everything that meant something to us. There are many objects with this system. And to me, they all look the same, but they are yet getting bigger. It seems to be literally coming from the south, right below us, and I mean, it's going to pass. And we look right in its way. I don't care what anybody tells me. I've watched this thing grow from a little tiny piece of grain of rice up to what it is now. So you can't tell me any different. If you saw something that you believed in with all your heart, there's nothing that I could do or anybody else could do to change your mind. You've seen it with your own eyes. The swaying back and forth vision. I went through that for 2.5 weeks. I thought maybe since I was in the Navy and I spent time out in the ocean, I thought maybe it was that. Maybe that morning when I grabbed a hold of my wall and I could feel it stretch and I was holding on for dear life, that maybe that is why the swaying back and forth from the ship. But I thought to myself, no way, I never got sick. I always enjoyed it. Never once did I ever get sick out at sea. I believed these things, and they were very real to me. These were things God was showing me facing the southwest. I mean, I saw the ocean. I saw buildings and trees. I mean, and they were on the very top of this high wave. And I'm at 3,200 feet here. They were way past that. The oceanic life that I've seen, that God has showed me, you know, whales and dolphins, I mean, you know, and people, they don't understand because they're not open enough to accept what might be reality. I mean, we've got to think that we put everything that is not, that we don't believe is true into the sci-fi category. Okay, and it has its own special place in the library. You know, I remember asking, hey, where's the sci-fi? It's right over there in the corner. It's got its own place. It's over in the dark area. Because most of those stories in those sci-fi magazines and books are real. August 21st, 2012, while walking my cousin out to his car by my gate, we both stood there at the fence and we were talking, and all of a sudden I seen a very bright light flash from the north, and it drew both of our attentions to it. As we watched this beautiful craft swooped down at a 90, all taking no more than 7 to 10 seconds. I couldn't believe the structure of it. The first initial reaction was there was no way our military could fly something like this. As it came down, it had a large black dome, very large. They did not want us to see in it. That was very apparent. As it came down, I could not help to notice the beautiful, beautiful, perfect green color. It was a neon green. And if you've ever seen a UFO, the colors are perfect. Every single one of them, they're very, very detailed and perfect, much different than ours. And as it come over, and I started looking at the green lights, I noticed that they were emitting from circular areas that were within the bottom of this craft. And it stretched from one side to the other. And within that circle, each one of them was a beautiful metallic metal, and they resembled sickles, as if icicles were to form on the edge of a roof, how sharp they would become. And all around that circle, it was like that. Very, very detailed and perfect. On the right-hand side of it was a hook. And it was a decent-sized hook. I thought maybe a docking mechanism of such. But this craft was large. I bet you it flew 300 feet above me. It scared the holy bejeebas out of me. This UFO was very fighter-like. It reminded me of watching a Star Wars flick. Couldn't believe it. People that say UFOs make no sound, that is incorrect. This was very loud, and it rumbled the ground. After witnessing what we had witnessed that night, it took me 2 weeks to go outside after that. That traumatized me so much. You know, it made me feel like a child again. But as I came to the grasp of we were not alone, and the factor that, and the reality that the military could be operating these crafts, became more defined to me. I wanted to find out how many were here and why. At first, when I started going outside, I did it a couple hours a week. And then it became a hobby of mine. I started going out a couple hours every other day. And then it became an addiction. I started going out every night for hours on end. I couldn't get enough. I thrived to see them. It became a part of me. And at first, I noticed out of the corner of my eyes these objects, but yet when I'd look at it, boom, they'd shoot off and they'd be gone. And I thought I was going crazy there for a while. April 7th, stepped out my front door after watching a bright light in the south, and it finally flashed, 5 minutes. Went out with my camcorder and shot towards the south at one white primary object that turned to 2 whites and 2 red primary objects. I couldn't believe what I was seeing at this moment. I was stunned. I had been waiting for so long to catch this on camera to show the world, because I kept asking, you know, show me. I want you to bless me with your presence. I wanted to have the same respect, you know, of them as they were having for me. And I constantly said that in my mind. And I never spoke out loud. It was always within my mind's inner self. After watching them pass, I had this urge to turn my camera around towards the south. And within seconds, I was bringing the camera back around towards the north. I mean, within 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And they had changed completely from 4 orbs to 2 prominents and 2 flashing simultaneously. And it resembled a butterfly, almost. And I remember watching it as it faded off into the north, that it could not decipher its direction, you know, its directional pattern that it wanted to go. It would weave down to the west and then back up a little bit to the north. And, you know, I mean, it was just, you couldn't correctly calculate it. I brought the footage in and put it on the computer, and I was so disappointed how shaky I was. I still chose to release that video anyways because of how I felt through capturing it. In disappointment, that evening on the 7th, April, I went outside, and as I was speaking in my mind, I was telling them, you know, I was so upset, you know, I wanted really to catch you and how beautiful you were in every form and how you guys worked together and moved to create what you created. I was so disappointed that I wanted to have that chance again for them to bless me with their presence. And no more than 2-3 minutes later, after telling myself that and concentrating on them, out from the southwest over to the northeast come a very bright light, very beautiful and full, pure. And this object, it was amazing because it understood how I felt. You know, and it went slow for me. And as I captured it, I couldn't help but to say thank you. You know, for giving me the pleasure of showing the world your beauty. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful one right over me. Just like this morning, folks. Oh, I hope I'm doing better. It's kind of a bummer I did that this morning. My God. We need to show the world these things. People need to know that they're there. They're there on our beings from other dimensions. It's so awesome. Awesome. It's a rush. It's a big rush. Come on, Kurt. No, focus. Come on.
That's my roof, baby. That's my roof, baby. My roof, baby. For you. Yeah.
And there are stories all around the world, and they're even more compelling now, of the nature of these crafts and the amount of them and the differences between them. No matter what anybody thinks, there are billions and billions of creatures, of civilizations that are like ours. Okay, but I don't imagine they're as hurtful and as greedy and have as much corruption as we do. After posting that video, I was so happy about it. A week went by. And then another week went by. I kept doing what I was doing. Every night, the addiction continued. I thrived. You know, it just became a part of me. And then that afternoon, on the 17th, April, something told me to go outside early. I was having a bad day. Nothing was working out right. I was saying everything that I could say wrong, and it was sounding right. I'm sure you guys know where I'm coming from. But as I sat there in the chair and I turned my camera on and I looked out at the sun, boof, I seen a flash. Wow. And then right away, up in the top 45-degree angle towards the southwest, south of the sun, okay, as it's going over you. As I looked at this light, I thought it was a UFO. And I went, thank you, because I had just asked moments prior to turning on the camera, show me. You know, show me where you live. Show me where you're at. Show me where you come from. I always ask that. And I seen that light. And I followed that light for 35 minutes. I thought it was the best, one of the best UFO experiences I'd ever had. And then all of a sudden, it had a differential and change. The prominence in the background became visible, and the brightness from that object became secondary. There was a larger object behind that. But it wasn't only that one. There were three in front of this big one. And then after a while, going through the videos, it wasn't until somewhere around December 2013 that I realized that what I had viewed was three stars in the front, a very primary, one of the primaries, in tow and back of the third moon, okay, so which would be the fourth object that I would be looking at, and then a large debris trail, a large debris hand, a gravitational influence between two objects. Okay? And these objects, the gravitational influence is so strong because it's like Earth and the moon. The gravitational field, you know, that our Earth gives off to the moon keeps that moon structural. It keeps it going the same way around Earth. So after the fourth object, the primary, behind that you have, as I said, the gravitational influence of an arm that reaches out and it grabs a larger object. This one, this is the beast. Okay, this is the one that people can't see. Now, behind that, that's the winged planet. That's the fiery one. Now, the reason why you can't see it all the time is because this planet, this second primary, okay, that is in front. We're thinking blue and red Kachina here, okay? The one that is in front is so large, it shields the back. It hides it. It comes out every now and then because of the S pattern rotation it gives. Okay. So, naturally, this large object that's behind the red moon-looking deal. Now this large object behind that carries a moon. Okay? And this moon is bright. Its 10th is bright as the sun. It has its own debris trail behind the moon object. Okay? That is bright, and it stays bright. It's lit. And I'm not sure if that is where they say the Anunnaki come from. Okay? But that brings us to a different subject. Twice I have seen figures, large. I've seen them twice. The very first time I seen 5 of them. And I couldn't believe it. I thought I was losing it. These beings were large. They looked almost like us, but barbaric looking. Long beards, I mean, gigantic. And the very first time that I had seen them, they were flying. And I'm not going to say that there's not a creature that can't fly, because we have flies, dragonflies. You know, we have several birds. You know, that we have several things that can fly here on Earth. So just because we think of that natural humans can't fly kind of a thing doesn't mean that something from out of this world can't. That may resemble us a bit, you know. So seeing these large beings, when I first saw them, they came down and they were very fast, very, very fast. And they came down and they stopped and they all looked as if, wow, okay, where are we and what territory are we looking at, you know? And boom, they were gone. They had places to go, and they were headed wherever they were going. They knew exactly where they were going. These visions that I've experienced quite often seem like they are coming from a different realm, almost a different dimension. There have been a couple instances where, as once, sitting out front on the east side, filming the system on the east side, and watching planes skirt the sky. And you always notice more things when you get the video or the picture and you take it and you put it on the computer and you look at it. You always see more. So I get it on the computer, and I swear I see something come from the left to the right as I'm filming this object out in the east. So I back up and I go frame by frame. And what I see is a large sphere, black and white, that comes out of the left, down at a 45 towards the right, right through me, and out towards the east, very fast, almost like an electrical charge. For years, we have figured out a way to stay on the same frequency level. Think of it as a perfect tone, being completely solid. Now, when you get a note that is out of tune, it creates a almost vibrato sound, a fluctuation in the perspective of the sound itself. And for years we've had this certain tonal vibration that we have our frequencies on, and it works with everything. And as this system moves closer, that vibration changes. It's natural, because this system brings an electromagnetic charge with it. It's the idea of that negative and positive interaction. Naturally, with that, you have occurrences. You have electrons that move around within our atmosphere. And that confuses the vibration that we've all accepted throughout the years and the frequencies that we've used through radio transmissions and things like that. Now, the more and more that the frequency changes, the more and more things that we're going to see. More things that are going to make themselves apparent to us. And it brings us back to the sphere. As I seen that, I realized that the conscious state that we live in every day is much, much different than what is actually beyond what we can see. So as this changes, it's only going to open up the visibility aspect for us. When the UFOs, when the objects, the crafts, they fly above us, they have a field around them to where we cannot see it. It's like a cloaking mechanism. But as this system gets closer and closer, it's going to open all that to us. And we're going to see it all, folks. And it's important that we stay together in numbers during this time. And it's important that you prepare yourselves, not only through supplies, but mentally. This is nothing that we've ever experienced before. And this, guys, is going to be very fast. As the object comes in closer to us, we're going to experience large CMEs, coronal mass ejections coming from the sun, creating large earthquakes, and the moving of the crust and the shifting of our plates. We will see, and we are experiencing changes within our sun, the stars, and the moon. These are all things that we are going to experience and go through. This will not be a long, drawn-out process. This will be very swift and fast. I don't predict to give a time. It's important also to reflect during these times the love and cherish that, embrace that warmth of our love for one another. God gave his only Son in order that we would not perish, but have everlasting life through him, through his love and guidance. I couldn't give my only Son, which I love very much, for you. So let's remember this, guys, as we get together with family and we share what's most important to us, our lives. Until next time, this has been Music Player 1979 here in West Texas. Much love, guys.
Love you, folks. We know you have a good day.